Wake up, wake up. Larry Krueger, Damon Bruce. Looks like we got a guest in the house. That's right. Wake up starts right now. The Niners got a big win. Paulie Mack is in the house. We are fired up. It's a Friday. Join us now.
Friday, October 11th. It is the rare Victory Formation Friday. I mean, you get these on a Monday, and sometimes you get them on a Tuesday. You get one on a Friday, and boy, did the 49ers need that. Now, Larry and I have an awful lot of experience talking overnights, at nights, in afternoons, but this morning thing is very new to both Larry and I, so we thought we'd bring in a ringer for today, a man who understands mornings implicitly. It is so good to see you, Paulie Mack. I speak for everyone when I say welcome to the show. How are you, pal?
Damon Bruce, great to see you, brother. And Larry and I have been hanging out for a couple of weeks now, so we've been rather well acquainted since the beginning of the football season. And D. Bruce, always a pleasure to see you. Hey, I'm glad you made it back from the Sphere in one piece. I live to tell the tale as well. So we survived that. We survived the Seahawks game. And, dude, I'm so happy to be here with you guys on a Friday morning. Thanks for having me.
Everyone's excited to see you. We're happy to have you, Paulie. I know that you and Larry have been working together. I love that you came over here. You're checking it out. You're learning the rules of the road, man, and I love it. I think it's fantastic that you're over here. And make sure everyone finds Paulie's YouTube channel and subscribes and gets down with Paulie. Obviously, Krueger. We are brought to you by Sam's Chatterhouse. And what do you know? It was a Thursday night rookie party up in Seattle. You know, I thought that the 49ers were going to win this game. I didn't think rookies would be as heavily involved in the victory. We did assume there was going to be a special teams mistake, and oh my God, there was another one. But Larry, you know, we talked about this earlier in the week, man. There's no beauty pageant here. There's no swimsuit portion of this competition. Come back from Seattle with a win was the only mission accomplished.
Yep, no question. Great win for the Niners. It did come at a price. Adam Schefter reporting this morning that Jordan Mason, who is the NFL's leading rusher, is believed to have suffered a sprained AC joint. It's not considered serious, so that's good. He will undergo further testing today. He injured that left shoulder in the first half, did return for one carry to open the third quarter, and then just basically was like, hey, too much pain. So they went with other guys, and he finished with 73 yards on 9 carries, caught another pass for 9 yards. On the season, guys, Mason's got 609 rushing yards on only 114 carries. So, the Niners, I mean, already Christian McCaffrey's out, Greenlaw's out, Hargrave's done for the year, Hafonga's got torn ligaments in the wrist, and now Mason is out for, who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure. I won't even speculate, but hopefully he'll be back soon.
You know, it's funny, you guys. Last night, I was actually up in Napa. Brian Murphy and I, Murph and Mac, reunited last night. We hosted a watch party.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it was a really great collection of guys. And this is going to lead me to a point about J.P. Mason, where Patrick Willis was there, Bryant Young was there, and Steve Mariucci, and also Dwayne Board. Shout out Pee-wee. I got some
Pee-wee in the house.
Yeah, Krugs. I got some great Pee-wee stories. Hopefully I can share those with you if we have time today. He told me some really funny stuff about Joe Montana at halftime and what his ritual was. But we can get to that later. But in any case,
good tease.
Yeah,
this guy's done this before.
On the payoff, I'll tell you what, the payoff will not disappoint. I promise. So bring me back to that later. But we were watching the game in the first quarter, and Patrick Willis actually said, it was almost like he called his shot. He goes, I really like what I'm seeing from Mason, but I worry about his durability. And then sure enough, a couple snaps later, he goes down. And that is a concern. I mean, he's had so many carries. He was on his way to having just a monster night. What did he have? 9 carries, 73 yards. I mean, he was on his way to busting open a huge night. So really unfortunate to see him go down. And, luckily they got time off though,
They do. Exactly. They got them little mini bye, if you will, sort of baked into the 3 days of rest that they have now on the league, thanks to the fact that they played on Thursday Night Football and everybody goes this weekend. That's good news. It is bad news about Mason, but like you said, severity unknown. And look, Larry, there was not an awful lot to like from Isaac Guerendo. There really wasn't. It was an unimpressive outing until it wasn't, until Guerrero absolutely sealed the deal with as big of a play as he'll make in his rookie year for sure. Guerrero had 23 yards on 8 carries, which is not a good average, which is not productive.
2.5 yards a carry, I believe.
Yeah. Then he busts out 76 yards to basically seal the deal. I don't know if they're joking around about him sliding or whatever. That he was caught from behind. He got ankle tripped up at behind, and that's why he went down before he got to the end zone. But it's exactly the play that the 49ers needed. Rookie had his fingerprints all over it. Renardo Green with the interception that was needed right in the time that it happened was a huge play in this game. And then a rewind all the way back to the first quarter, first drive of the game. Malik Mustafa preventing a touchdown with that huge cradling interception as he was coming across the field. That was fantastic. He left the game with an ankle injury. Larry, have you heard anything about the severity of that?
No, we'll get an update today from Shanahan. He speaks at, I think, 12:30, and we'll get an update on a couple of those guys. But, just an impressive performance, I thought, from Mustafa as well. I mean, it's funny. We talked a lot about what it was going to take to win last night. And my primary thing was, hey, look, the Niners have 8 turnovers in 5 games coming into last night. That's just too many turnovers. So turnovers, even though it's like kind of a basic thing and not, all that, special to talk about it or unique, it really is everything. And the Niners were +3 in turnovers. The other thing we said is, guess what? They're going to have to run the ball because Seattle doesn't have a good run D. And they got to stop Seattle's run because Seattle throws it more than any team in football. And even though they were saying they wanted to reestablish the run, it's easier said than done, especially against a defense like the Niners. Sure enough, Niners came out 33 carries for 228 yards, almost 7 yards a carry. And then Seattle was held to 20 carries for 2.6 yards. So mission accomplished. And then Mooney Ward went out with the injury, and we're all like, okay, that means Renardo's going to have to step up. And I tweeted it in the afternoon. I'm like, Renardo Green he's not going to shrink in this moment. He's going to step up. Because I've interviewed the kid, and he's all business. He's very, very serious. Yeah. And he's played a ton of man-to-man coverage at FSU. He's battle-tested. He's not afraid. And, man, the kid played great. I thought the 2 biggest plays of the game were Renardo's pick and also the pick from Mustafa, because Mustafa set the tone, and then Renardo's kind of halted and reversed the momentum that Seattle had. So, the Niners didn't just get 2 young DBs, and I started looking at it after the draft when I started looking at these guys, and I'm like, you know what they got? They got what they lost in Mosley and Ward. They lost these guys who were not just good players. They were versatile, they were tough, and they were alphas. They were leaders. They were the guys that just in day one take over. That's what they missed, and that's what these 2 guys are. They're alphas. They're true leaders.
I also thought was good about those 2 interceptions, you guys. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first interception this year by a 49er cornerback. I mean, we've seen Fred pick them off, but I don't think a corner had a pick until last night. Also, just an interesting footnote. I heard after the game.
Bosa had a pick. Yeah, I think you are right, because Bosa had a pick. Warner's had picks.
Yeah, that's right. And another interesting stat to throw on that pile. After the game last night, I heard it was the first 49er game since 1989 where 2 rookies had interceptions in the same game. And it did happen in 89. Krugs, it was one of our old favorites. Shout out I think it was number 59, Keith DeLong. He was one of those guys. And actually,
Chet Brooks?
I don't know. I don't think Chet Brooks was the other one.
Okay.
I only got DeLong. There's another mystery Niner who had a pick as a rookie. Maybe somebody could dig up that stat for us. But no, it's just great to see corners making plays, you guys. They've needed that sorely this year. And it was fun. And like you said, those guys, the moment was not too big. Renardo Green looked perfectly comfortable making big plays on the big stage. It was good to see.
They say when a man gets his leg amputated, sometimes it still itches and he wakes up in the middle of the night. You just say, maybe someone could get that stat for us. You've had your producer amputated for you, Paulie, but you're still looking for hey, can somebody run me in that stat, please?
There's my new producer right here.
There it is. There it is. Surrey is doing a hell of a job keeping this show together. This show is brought to you by Sam's Chatterhouse, by the way. We love Sam's Chatterhouse as much as we love Paulie Mack. You want to talk about good time. You want to talk about calories. California right the whole way through Sam's Chatterhouse. There it is, Paulie. There she is, baby. You've been down.
Love it. Oh, it's the best.
Wait and you see. Wait, here we go. We're going to have to give lobster rolls of the game. Some teams give game balls. Some shows give MVPs. We give lobster rolls of the game. And I'll tell you, can I start? Can I start with my lobster roll?
Go ahead.
His name is Fred. His last name is Warner. And he is pound for pound the single best San Francisco 49er. I mean, I love Brock. We've been really impressed by Jordan Mason. Great to see Debo have a game with a little bit of violence behind it. We know that Bosa really affected the pile last night. He had a great game, but Fred Warner has been the through line of excellence in every single game we have seen so far this year. It is easy to give this lobster roll to Fred Warner, a team-high 11 tackles, a pass defended, a forced fumble on the evening. He now has 51 passes defended as a linebacker, only 2 behind Patrick Willis, who you were hanging out with last night, Paulie Mack. 1 forced fumble on the day. He's now got 4 this season, 15 in his career, only 1 behind that Patrick Willis guy. It's amazing how often his name is on the list of everything that a linebacker's ever done for the 49ers. But Fred Warner is going to the Hall of Fame. Like I'm now going to talk about him as future Hall of Famer Fred Warner, because that's who he is. He is pound for pound the best San Francisco 49er. I don't even think it's close.
Great player, and he's mastered the the punch out. And he had another one yesterday, and it's like, and it's an amazing thing too. I asked him about it a few weeks ago. I'm like, where did this come from? Is this all because of your boxing training in the off season, or is your focus changed? And he's like, you know what? The longer I play in this league, the more I realize that possession of the ball is just like it's bigger than like the biggest tackle you ever made. It's bigger than the biggest sack that you ever made that doesn't involve a strip. Possession of the ball is everything. And he's like, the more I play in the league, the more I see the value of it. And so now it's like, I bring myself into every play with that mindset of I'm taking the ball away. And, I'm sure, he's running, he's seeing all kinds of body parts and all kinds of movement, and he just focuses in on that ball. You can tell. And it's like he just kamikazes that fist right to the ball. It's uncanny how well he does it. And it's a skill, guys. I remember interviewing D Ford, and D Ford said, hey, look, I was good when I was sacking the quarterback, but I'm way better now that I'm strip sacking the quarterback. And he had kind of perfected it towards the end. Possession means everything. If you can cause fumbles or interceptions, you're a star. You're going to make the Pro Bowl.
It's like Charles Tillman with the Bears back in the day, his peanut punch. And no one invented causing a fumble. It's hard to say I'm the inventor of that, but the peanut punch really became like a thing that was discussed, and it felt like more players tried to emulate it. And I think Fred Warner has absolutely perfected it. He is, what's the weakness? What is the Fred Warner weakness? If you had to go into court and argue the weakness of Fred Warner is, what would you even put forward?
Underpowered at the point of attack, maybe. I mean, that was the book on him coming out of BYU. He's obviously gotten so much stronger now, but he's so special in the other phases that's the only thing you could argue. I mean, he is I would argue that he's the best linebacker running backwards, in coverage, in other words.
Yeah.
That I've ever seen. I mean, literally ever seen. But I mean, we also should expect that because it is a passing game now, and you have to be able to play coverage. It is interesting though. You see it in other sports like lacrosse. My kid played lacrosse. I played lacrosse in college, and I played in high school, and I've seen a bunch of my kids' friends playing lacrosse. Sometimes, you'll in an open field situation, one guy plays the ball, the other guy plays the man. In the old NFL, the safeties always played the man. Now they play the ball, and the coverage is so much better, and you don't see those gigantic detonating hits that you saw from Fulcher and Ronnie and Chuck Cecil and Browner and all those 80s safeties, but you do see guys covering better than the safeties of yesteryear ever did.
Hey, Krugs, who's getting your lobster roll? Who are you going to reward with the Sam's Chowder House lobster roll of the game?
When I talk a lot of S about guys, I feel like I need to walk it back when they step up. And I talked a lot of S this week about Deebo Samuel, about how slow he was and how his run after the catch had evaporated and how he was closer to the end than the beginning. And every single freaking time that this team needs a guy to step up in a huge moment, whether it was last year in Philadelphia or last night and just a gotta have it moment, Deebo, gets to that next level. Now, I expect him to be on the injured list today because I thought he took a bunch of hits, and I don't know what his injury will be, but I just got a feeling he's going to be on the injured list today because he took so many hits. But 3 catches for 102 yards, that long touchdown, that tone-setting touchdown. He also had 4 carries for 15 yards. He took some of the abuse in the backfield when Mason went down. It was a group effort, right? They had 33 carries, 1 for Juice, 4 for Deebo, 5 for Taylor, 4 for Purdy, 9 for Mason, 10 for Garendo. So it was a shared deal. But I'll give my lobster roll to Deebo on the offense. And the guy that I was kind of, throwing dirt on a little bit was Bosa. I thought I threw Bosa's name on a list of guys that in my mind, it's like the old coach used to tell me, hey, if you're doing personnel, just never forget how fast it all goes by, and that you fall from grace really fast, and then suddenly at some point you look up and you're all you got is the name on the back of the jersey, and it doesn't really reflect who you are anymore. And it was a great lesson, and I threw a bunch of Niners out there that belonged on that list, including Deebo, and I threw Bosa on there, and of course Bosa had just an epic day. I mean, what do you have? 15 pressures or something like that. That was one of the best performances I've seen from Bosa in his entire career. So I give my lobster roll on D to Bosa, lobster roll on O to Deebo.
All right, boys. Let me just come off the top rope here because I got a lobster roll I want to dish out too. And part of me, actually, I thought about Brock Purdy because it was interesting. I've been noticing that he's taken some heat lately. The Niner fans are getting a little squirrely with what they're seeing from Brock Purdy, or maybe I should say what they're not seeing from Brock Purdy. I was pleased with how he performed last night. The touchdown passes to Kittle in particular, I thought he put in some really tight windows. So shout out to Brock. I'll give him like a bite of the lobster roll, but for the rest of the lobster roll, I got to shout out my man, the man of the hour. He wears number 35 in your scorecard. Matthew, I'm right. Bro, let me just say this. Bringing a kicker in off the street like that you're always rolling the dice. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, it's a nationally televised game. It's a division game. It's a fierce rivalry. Here comes old 35 trotting out like it was no sweat at all. Because I was worried going into the game. This is the kind of game, a Thursday night, these two teams could come down to a late field goal. Mercifully, it didn't come down to that. But all things considered, I just want to give him a little bit of love because he did perform. They called this number. Oh, and by the way, last thing, you guys, D. Bruce Cruz, can we stop? Larry, you were talking about special teams and how important they are to the overall success of the games, or rather turnovers you were talking about. Dude, can we ask our kickers to stop making tackles already? Bro, did you see Nick Wright late in the fourth quarter? He's rolling. He's making plays. Like, I don't want kickers making tackles anymore. We already lost Moody. And at the end of the game, I see Wright walking off holding his shoulder. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But barring that, I will give my lobster roll to Matthew. I'm right, because he did perform.
That's right. Len Eschmont Award winner Matthew Wright. Is that what you're talking about? He did everything you could ever ask a guy walking in off the street who met the team on Tuesday to do on a Thursday night. It is another special teams failure, though, that for a second week in a row, a kicker is your free safety on your kickoff. He should not have to be the last line of defense. No. I'm firing Brian Schneider today if I'm Kyle Shanahan. I don't
really
think
you're going to dump the special team coordinator.
Yeah, I've seen enough. You cannot massively fuck up 6 weeks in a row. I mean, we have data from 6 weeks in a row. This isn't a small sample size. No. This is an overwhelming sample size of incompetence. And for this team to allow so much yardage in the return game to the point where you're getting kickers hurt. It's the second ever kick return for a touchdown under this new hybrid kickoff rule that the 49ers gave up. There's only one other in the league that has gone house call on a kickoff. So it's just it's substandard. It's substandard. You brought in a new kicker. You might as well bring in a new special teams coach too. Somebody who's going to do something other than what we've seen for 6 weeks. And I also think it's the message across the bow of that entire locker room. I mean, it's you want to talk about vibes being a little funny? Okay, well, when vibes are funny, it's time to do something a little different.
The special teams coach.
Fire the special teams coach.
You know what, though? One last thing on that. You know what? I don't think that's that crazy, Damon, because think about this. 2 of their losses, you can really point a finger directly at special teams mishaps that's the point when the game turned. I think about the Minnesota game and that block punt. That was the turning point to that game. And then I think it was the very next week down in Los Angeles, they executed that fake punt. They pulled it off, and that changed the momentum of that game. And they lost both of those games. So,
and they also had the kick return that set up the game-winning field goal that beat you in L.A. There's been a muffed punt. There's been a blocked punt. There has been all kinds of problems in the return game. The only element of special teams that is working is the field goal kicking, to be totally honest with you. Even Mitch Wisnowski is having a little bit of an off year on this special teams. So it just, I would do something other than that again.
Do you think they will, though?
No.
Do you think they will?
I don't think they will. It's not who they are. It's not in their DNA. It's not
They've done it before. I mean, they have done it. I mean, they have fired coaches before.
Has Shanahan dismissed any coordinator or coach in season since he's taken over? I think the answer to that is no, right?
No.
That's no.
I don't know about that, actually. I don't remember one either, but I know that they've I mean, he kind of basically fired Wilkes last year. He changed where he was sitting. He essentially, I mean, I think they made the decision right then to get rid of him. I don't know.
A battlefield demotion instead of a battlefield promotion.
Yeah, I mean, it would get people's attention. It's a rough thing. I mean, but you know, I mean, and Schneider's got a reputation that's good around the league. But yeah, I mean, it would be warranted. It would be warranted. I'll tell you the other thing that
if they actually did it, would anyone ask why? Would anyone try to do that seems like a little bit of an overreaction type of column?
It's like this. I mean, some of the mistakes have been Guerrero ran up the back of Sarbert and fumbled. Is that on Brian Schneider? I don't know. To me, it would probably be on Guerrero. I mean, some of the things are on the players, but no, I agree. There's been enough breakdowns here that the buck stops with him. It's bottom line. I mean, it's not show friends, it's show business. You know what I mean? So,
and it can't be this hard. There's no other team in football struggling with special teams every single week. The 49ers, look, everyone's got talent. Everyone's got a coach. And there are times where there's a failure and, you got it. You got caught that day on special teams. You got. This team gets got once a half on special teams. I
love this one from Blood Moon. Nothing could be further from the truth than this. That 97-yard return was on Jalen Graham. The hell it was. Jalen Graham was the only 49er that actually made contact with anybody on that. If it's on him, he was the guy that delivered the one hit. He just didn't wrap up. What about all the other guys that didn't even touch the player? I mean, we're going to blame the one guy who almost got the tackle. No, I'm sorry. He actually had the biggest hit on that play. He just bounced off. You got to wrap up. I'll tell you the other thing that we would be talking tons about today if the 49ers had lost, and that was the officiating gaffe you just never see. I mean, I could not believe what I was watching. And then as the game evolved and we got more information that the booth didn't even have the same video replays that we got at home, the definitive replay that showed the ball going off the finger of the Seattle defensive player. And that absolutely, I'm just looking at the game. That was 23-17 beginning of the fourth quarter. Okay. Conley gets blocked into the returner.
By the way,
penalty.
that's also sloppy special teams. You shouldn't
Right.
even be in a position where you're getting blocked into a returner. But go on.
Well, no, maybe you want to be in the neighborhood. But anyway, he challenged the Niners challenged the call that the ball didn't touch Seattle.
Right.
When they did, I was like, well, that's a shot in the dark because I hadn't seen a definitive replay. Then we got a definitive replay, and it was like it clearly ricocheted off the guy's finger. And the ruling on the field was Seattle ball. The Niners challenged. They went up to the booth, supposedly looked at the replay, and they came back and they awarded the ball back to Seattle again. So, I mean, it's like that was they didn't rule it was a turnover. And Seattle got the next play, and they, eventually would punt. But, I mean, that right there, I mean, if Seattle had scored the game-winning touchdown or the game-leading touchdown on that drive, I mean, there would have been absolutely hell to pay. I mean, that was just an unbelievable call. Plus, the Niners could have put the game away if they get that turnover. It's 1st and 10 49ers deep inside Seattle territory. I mean, that was just a major, major, major screw up for replay, which has been in effect for a while. I mean, how can they not have? It was sold to us that the command center has like all kinds of angles that we never see, and it's like we're not going to show you, but just dare to dream about what you see compared to what these masters of the fucking universe see. And these guys are sitting in some office in New York, supposedly with 19,000 angles. And they can't get it right. I mean, could you imagine if somebody had lost a Super Bowl on that? I mean, that would go down in history and lore forever.
Yeah, it's a total embarrassment for the league. I mean, it really is. It's a horrible look for the NFL. Here they are, this multi-billion-dollar corporation, this huge machine that's just swept up everybody in the country. And they can't get a call like that right on a national stage. And now, I don't know if you guys heard this, but after the game, one of the things I heard was that the refs on the field didn't have access to what you're referring to, Krugs, that mysterious command center. And why do those refs not have the ability to get the footage that those guys are getting is beyond me. I mean, there's really no rational explanation as to why the refs on the field don't get the same look as the guys that are reviewing the play in the command center. It really, I mean, all kidding aside, it's got to be fixed. This is something the league has to address, and they've got to fix it or improve it at the very least. Because if we all saw something and the refs on the field couldn't see what we all saw, we got a big problem. I mean,
and I know they've got this belief that anything that happens on site is like fixed and everything must be the only way we can have credibility is if we have a New York command center. Okay, well, I mean, think about this for a second. The game is being played in the Pacific Northwest. Some guy in the middle of the night, probably with sleep deprivation in a dark room in New Jersey somewhere, is making some call, and he doesn't even have the same camera angles. It's like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right. It's like an overnight DJ who's got to flip the record over to get to the second side of Dark Side of the Moon because they're doing a full album party. And, he set his alarm for 45 minutes. He goes, I got to go change. It is. Why not have an official in the damn production truck? Why not have an official right there in the command center of the heartbeat of the game, not some other command center? What I also don't understand was, do they have no Amazon Prime in the command center? Is are they only using some strange bit of satellite footage that we are privy to? Because, look, man, I kind of miss going to football games, even Levi Stadium. I miss being around people and game day and the atmosphere. But I know for a fact that I can cover a football game better from my couch than I can do it from the press box because I have access to jog plays back and decipher things that I would not have in a press box. You cannot tell me now that I have a better grasp of the game from my couch than the NFL command center. Okay, I mean, that just cannot happen. Like you're saying, that cannot happen. But
you're not getting the coverage on TV, Damon. I mean, I know what you're saying, but you're not getting the coverage. Like I can sit there on the upper deck and I can see quarters coverage, quarter, half. I can see if they're playing man. I can see if they're playing, you can see the coverage on from the upper deck that you can't see on TV. But I hear what you're saying. Right. You get so much more. The TV experience is a more informed on the game experience than just sitting in section whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely more immersive. You are right. You can't see the entirety of the field. It's the same thing. Like, if you're watching on TV, you can't see where outfielders are positioned. But at the same time,
wait a second. G. Martinez. I forgot, Damon, last night. Ryan Smith brought it up in the post game.
There is an all 22.
Prime's got the all 22. You can watch the game in that kind of all 22 coaches copy. So what they call sideline wide, end zone wide. You can get that on Prime for Thursday nights.
I have more on a replay or a rewatch than I do on the initial watch.
Yeah.
Most people do. But if you could have both the announcers and the all 22, and it was really, really good, and they did maybe intersplice some close-ups, so it's not all just the wide angle. To me that would be preferred. I mean, and someday we'll all sit down and make our own. I want barstool type announcers, and I want all 22 footage. You know what I mean? Someday you'll be able to customize your broadcast. I bet.
Right. I want Larry Krueger and Paulie Mack doing play-by-play in color, but I only want it in spider cam while George Kittle's staring at it the entire game as well.
Right. And I'd also like to install a lobster roll cam too, if possible, just to get that.
100%.
Yeah, let's throw it to the lobster cam. Yeah, totally.
Let's go to Sam's cam. Let's get the Chatterhouse cam.
You guys know. I mean, I'm a hardcore guy that likes kind of the hardcore broadcast. But you know what? I stumbled onto, and Paulie, I don't know if I told you this. I told this to Damon. I stumbled onto a bowl game in December between like Toledo and Wyoming on a day that I just wanted to watch. It happened to be the Barstool broadcast, and it was like Big Cat, Portnoy, and some third guy who was like the actual play-by-play guy. And dude, it was remarkably entertaining. It really was. And it's like, it kind of opened my eyes to, you know what? I'm a hardcore football fan, but there's probably way more people that would like kind of a comedian type, looser, like an offensive lineman caught a ball that popped in the air and ran in for a touchdown. They're like, hey, it's a fat guy touchdown. And they're like high-fiving. And it was Barstool doing what Barstool does. But it kind of opened my eyes up. This might be the future of broadcast, where I may want really hardcore analysis and really knowledgeable guys, but guess what? Other people may just want to laugh and almost have kind of like a Manning cast type thing. I think that's the future, and maybe those guys will be more popular 20 years from now. Who knows? Maybe Paulie Mack could be doing. You could be on the broadcast, Paulie, just talking music and having fun, and you know what I mean, kind of an alternative to like, hey, did they blitz? Did they send 5? Did they send 6? It's a little bit more like, hey, we're just having fun.
Let me give you a sneak peek of what the Paulie Mack cast would look like on a Thursday night matchup between the Steelers and the 49ers. It would look and sound something like this. Brock Purdy under heavy duress. Oh, he's thrown deep. Debo caught it. Touchdown, Niners. I'm kidding. Well, maybe I'm not kidding. But you know what's funny, Cruz and Damon, is that
snacks. There's all these snacks in the background. Tostitos. Time for the Doritos replay.
Time for the Lay's sour cream and onion instant replay. Well, you know what's funny, you guys? I totally agree. I think that is a trend that's going to continue, and I do think
it's coming.
I don't think it's in that far in the future either, when you're going to have those kind of alternative broadcasts. The funny thing is, and I know you guys remember this, I think it was it the late 90s when ABC actually brought in Dennis Miller to the broadcast booth with that in mind. They wanted to get some comedic sensibilities on a ball game, but unfortunately, I just think it was the wrong guy for that, because he wound up pissing everybody up. It's a big throw by Joe Montana, babe, and he was doing all that. But nobody really warmed up to it. So they tried it once, it didn't work, but I really think it was because Dennis Miller just wasn't the right guy.
And it was ahead of it. It was a little bit ahead of its time, The old saying, it's like the first one through always gets it, right? So it's like it takes a while to change it. And also, part of Dennis Miller humor and comedy is political, and I think that's the one area of humor that I think people are sprinting away from into the sports realm. I don't think that they want you to. You know what I mean? Because people will only hear it through their whatever. So and you can't please everybody in that situation. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think the future is about, some people want to be informed, other people want to be entertained, and some people want to laugh. Some people I laugh at that Nickelodeon bowl game or playoff game, and they're hey, the guy got what's it called? He got slimed. Everybody gets slimed, and it's like it's all geared towards 6-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 8-year-olds and that kind of thing. You know what? I used to laugh at that and be like, what the hell? But now it's like, I can kind of see that if you have a menu of options and you want the vast audience, you know what? Probably makes sense.
Question for both of you guys. Question: do either of you enjoy or watch on a regular basis the Manning cast? Do you guys enjoy that? Like, do you like that?
I've seen it, but I don't love it.
I go about a quarter of the Manning cast, and then I go back to the original cast. But I flip over, and it's usually the guest that makes me flip away. When they're just like, and here's John Hamm promoting whatever bad movie he's in. Like, I'm out. That's when I'm gone.
I'll tell you what I would do though. And I don't know. I suggested this to Agnew way back when, but he was like, "What? Stupid? That's a stupid fucking idea." But I think it's a great idea. KMBR's got KMBR 680. They've got 104.5. They got 1050. They've got 810. The spread. They got all these different channels. You have Giants baseball. You have all these talented people.
Yeah.
There's 162 freaking games. If I don't want Joe Rizzo and FP Santangelo today, and you've got two hosts that I kind of like sitting in a booth at the game, just chatting about the game, and I'm going to be watching it on TV, and I could have an alternative, I may choose that. You know what I mean? I may want to hear a couple guys that I know and like, give me their opinions about the game while I'm watching the game, as opposed to, the broadcast. So I don't know. I do think there's room for kind of alternative broadcasts. Back to the Niner game for a second.
Well, hold on, Larry. Can I just one more thing?
Yeah.
Just going back to the whole replay debacle. This whole thing could have also been solved with a little bit of patience. The command center got the video that would have changed maybe the decision of that replay after they had come back from break and a play had been run, so it's too late. You can't go back in time and say, oh, we got that one wrong. Just slow it down. Don't go to commercial break. Wait until the command center has access to every conceivable angle, including the ones that they might not have because the broadcast hasn't come back yet. Slow it down, especially when there's only one game going on. Just one game being played in the league. No one's in a hurry to end this thing. We're all sitting at home. We're all watching. No one's saying, let's go. Again, replay, either put it all the way in or take it all the way out. This half stepping towards replay is what I think drives us all nuts.
Yeah. Or how about this one? Well, that part of it's not reviewable. It's like, what? Don't know, please. If there's going to be a call that impacts the game, it should be able to be reviewed. Okay. And then it's like, we don't want to review PI. Yeah. Why would you want to review the hardest call to make in the game that, has to be made in the blink of an eye as you're running downfield? I mean, why would you want to review that? It's like, but they just feel that it opens up a can of worms. And we saw what happened when they tried that. It became very subjective. And what are we seeing in different standards and blah, blah, blah.
By the way, it was Al Michaels, Dennis Miller, and Tony Kornheiser in that booth.
By the way, I love Al Michaels. Al Michaels is one of the greatest announcers that ever lived. He needs to retire.
He and Bob Costas had rough weeks. Okay, have you seen the vitriol on Costas?
I didn't see Costas' screw up, but Michaels is just, he's too formulaic. He's got the names wrong. He's everything's a little, he's totally emotionally uninvolved in the game. He's not the same guy from even 3 years ago. I realize he's smooth and sounds like Al Michaels. His brain is just not, he's just an older guy. I just think that he's an awesome announcer. He's one of the greatest announcers in the history of this country. I just think that right now he probably should just, maybe at the end of the year, call it quits. That's all. I mean, he's not embarrassing himself. He's awesome. He's still great, but he's just not. He doesn't have the enthusiasm anymore for it. You can hear it.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We had him on the Murphy Mac show a few times over the years, and he was always a really great guy to talk to with great story. And he's got ties to the San Francisco Giants, as you guys know. I mean,
yeah,
he
74, I think.
Yeah, he was calling games back in the 70s. Of course, the Olympics at Lake Placid, he'll live forever with that call. But I think it's funny because D. Bruce, I'm kind of with you, man. I think that Costas had a worse week.
What did he do? What happened? I missed that.
I mean, where do you begin? I mean, I can think of one play where there was a line drive. It was going in the gap between first and second, and Michaels called it a single before the play was even made. Turned out it was a line drive put out. The play was made at second base, and Al Michaels goes, "Oh, there's a line drive to center field." I mean, that's just one.
Yeah,
that comes in
honestly, though, that mistake is happening. That's a 100-mile-an-hour broadcasting mistake. I am less offended by 100-mile-an-hour broadcasting mistakes as much as just there's like a droning history lesson that seems to be the point of the broadcast more than the actual game that's being broadcast. And there's a way to weave in the history of the game, but he's spending a little bit too much time weaving rather than reporting on what is actually happening. And there's just
he's hard to like too. He's a hard guy to like.
He is. I agree.
He's the smartest guy in the room. It's hard to like the smartest guy.
Yeah, it's not done in a conversational way. It's done in a way where he's like giving you a history lesson, and it becomes objectionable. It's like, dude, don't. I'm not in a classroom with a pen and paper. I'm watching a ball game, and you're right, D. Bruce. There are effective ways to kind of weave in and out of that stuff. But his methods, he just sounds like he's talking down to you almost. And he's always like, back in my day kind of shit. And I think people have like a limit as far as their tolerance for back in my day. There's only so much of that.
If some people would have thought that Barstool Bowl was way too casual, Costas is way too prophesitorial. Is I'm saying it right?
It sounds like he's on a legal. It's a grand jury. He's been summoned by the grand jury, and it's grand jury testimony. It's like, bro, none of this shit is that important. It's all baseball, and he loves to weave in his opinion about. I mean, you're a play-by-play guy. Screw your opinion. There's other times I want your opinion, but if you're doing play-by-play, do the play-by-play.
It's not a TED Talk. It's a game. Have a little fun.
Right. Exactly.
It was. So it was an interesting week for broadcasters all around. I thought last night's broadcast was it's a little bit of a yawn. And look, Kirk Herbstreit is excellent doing college games. He is at best a C+, B- on NFL games. I really think that he's A+ college broadcaster, not exactly the best NFL broadcaster, but to each their own.
He's solid, but you're right. He's better in college. All of his nuggets of goodness that he puts in there are all, you hear them in Alabama, Georgia, but you don't really hear them in Niners Seahawks. Like he's got like background on the spring game that Georgia held and the sophomore that transferred from A&M. You know what I mean? He's got this great knowledge of that, and his recall's amazing. But when it gets to the NFL, it's like it doesn't translate. It's like he doesn't get the names right. He seems like he's kind of an outsider.
Can we talk a little red zone? And I don't mean like the channel or the network.
Let's do it, because the red zone was still a problem, guys.
I know.
The other thing about this game was that even though it was a win and a 12-point win on the road and an impressive one at that, the red zone, literally I tweeted at some point in the third quarter, I've seen this movie before, and I don't like the way it ends, because literally the Niners settled for 3 field goals in the first half. They gagged again in the red zone. They can't run the ball on the goal line to save their life.
Is it the play calling, you guys? Is it player execution? Honestly, I'm out of it. I don't know. I don't know why they're so challenged, because they move the ball so well, but up and down the field. Then they get down there, and it's almost like they tighten up. And I don't know if it's the plays that are coming in, or if guys are just not executing. What, D. Bruce? What are you seeing, and why do you think it's happening again and again?
I wish I knew. I mean, I can't, because it seems like they got the right coach to call the right play. They got the right quarterback. They've got an improved offensive line, and they've got the kind of weapons that who might not be good at stretching the field, but are great in space, in tiny little bits of space, with Kittle and Debo and Ayuk and all these guys who got more jitterbug than they got actual sprinter in them. And it just feels like it should be able to work much easier. Why is it so hard for this team? Again, you had Jordan Mason up until his injury last night, basically giving you a full 6-game impression of Marshawn Lynch. Why isn't he being used? Why isn't he finding more success on the goal line? It was all hard to imagine. It's a moment to appreciate just how great of a football player Christian McCaffrey really is.
Yeah.
Because Christian McCaffrey makes this shit look easy. Like, that's how good
he's so quick. He's so talented.
Make it look easy.
Would you guys like to see more use check down in those kind of 5-yard, say you're 5 yards and out from the end zone? Like, I liked that call last night, letting him bang his way into the end zone. And I wouldn't mind seeing more of that, because you don't see a lot of that kind of smash mouth running that close.
Well, you got, yeah. I mean, you got to, you have the right play call. I mean, on the play call that you're describing, I think, wasn't it Guerrero to the edge, and the defense kind of went with him, and then they handed it off to the fullback on the dive, and by the time you saw him, he was 4 yards downfield, and I think he went in for like a 7-yard score. Yeah. I just think that it's partly luck, right? It seems like every time they're getting into a goal to go situation, they get to the 10. Have you noticed that? They never get to, like, it's never first and goal from the 3. It's always first and goal from the 9 or from the 10. Yeah. Okay, so let's just look at last night, because they had three series that happened where they set up for field goals. Okay, so they, on the first one, they get down first and goal on the 10. Okay, so they run Mason for a 4-yard run. So now it's second and goal from the 6. Well, a 4-yard run on first and goal from the 10 tells me run him again, right? Run him again. Yeah. On second and goal from the 6, Purdy threw the ball to Mason, incomplete. So now it's third and goal from the 6, and Purdy throws it to Debo, who Artie Burns had coverage on, and Artie Burns got the PBU. So then you're fourth and goal from the 6 or 7 or whatever it was, and Wright comes on for the 25-yard field goal. So, I mean, they ran the ball effectively. This was the drive where Purdy had the bootleg pass to Debo on 3rd and 1 that he kind of juggled and then came down with it. It was a great catch. And then on the very next play, Mason had that violent 38-yard run where Kittle pancaked Julian Love, and Trent and Banks got out in front and made big blocks. So they're running the ball effectively on this drive, but they get inside the red zone, they get down to the 6, and it's pass. And then on the next one, it was also a situation kind of similar to that. They got the ball at the 29. Mason ran. 2nd and 9, he ran for 5 yards. They got the 3rd and 4, and Purdy ran and then threw it away. Incomplete, and then they get to 4th and 4. Here comes Wright for they get to 3rd and 4, and they passed. I don't know. I mean, that was the second one, and then the third one, also in the first half, they get down. Guerrero had a 4-yard run. They get down to the 31, and then Guerrero gets stuffed by Leonard Williams, tackled for a loss, and then it's 2nd and 11 from the 14. Purdy passes to Debo. The ball was too low. And then 3rd and 11, Purdy screened to Juszczyk, and Baker had a tackle for a loss. He beat Banks to the spot.
By the way,
so it was 4th and 14. Another field goal.
The screen game that the Niners are running is fooling no one. I mean, everyone is all over anything that might be a screen. They're all over it, and they blow it up before the ball's even caught. So Kyle needs to rework all of that. Screens to Juszczyk. You can see him coming from the upper deck, and teams are all over them. Screens to Debo. The teams have been all over them this year. So it feels like Kyle's, he needs to get a little bit more imaginative in his play design, a little bit more misdirection, more eye candy, whatever it needs to open up that element of the game, or it needs to be eliminated from the game plan, because it's not working. It is amazing. I wrote this down last night. If you give the 49ers like a country mile to cover, it's like they get on their horses and they ride. But if you give them 18 yards to cover, they start tripping over their own 2 feet like a tenderloin drunk going into Taco Bell. I mean, it's I don't get it.
No.
I don't get it how they can be a world mover and a world beater. I mean, they go anywhere they want to on any blade of grass they travel for 80 yards, and then the last 20 just absolutely confounds them. It is weird. It is very weird. And what's more amazing about this whole red zone inefficiency is that the 49ers literally are this inefficient in the red zone with the best red zone weapon through 6 weeks of play in the NFL this year, and his name is George Kittle. George Kittle leads the NFL in red zone catches with 10, in red zone yards with 65, and red zone touchdowns with 5. George Kittle is the best red zone target in football, and still the 49ers are struggling mightily in the red zone.
I'll say one thing that outside of the red zone, because the red zone, we've analyzed it a bunch. I mean, Shanahan's been asked about it. He said we need to run better. Brock has taken responsibility and said it's on me. I need to be better. I need to be more accurate. I need to have my clock dialed up faster. So I think it's a little bit of everything, right? It's a little bit of the line. It's a little bit of it's probably a lot of no Christian. But they've got other good players there. And I kind of think, and I've said this a couple times in a couple streams. So if you've heard a bunch of my streams, please don't, don't care that this is repeating, but I kind of believe that when you have Christian McCaffrey and he's so good, you got the ultimate red zone guy, you get kind of complacent. It's like, hey, you know what? If it doesn't work, just get it to Christian. Get it to Christian. Design something for Christian. Run, pass, whatever. Get it to Christian. And then when you take Christian away, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, we got to really design the right kind of a play. I mean, there's no movement here. You have to move people. You either have to move people because you have the personnel to move them, or you have to move them because you have the right play design, or you're tricking them. Or you got to have incredible quickness or incredible accuracy or timing. Something's got to be, in lockstep down there. And they just haven't been. They've just been a little miss, and it's not one thing, it's a number of things, but they're not running the ball on the goal line well at all. And that's perplexing because they do have a big back.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Krugs. A lot of it has to do with the absence of Christian McCaffrey in my mind, because you're right. It was almost like, their fail-safe, just rely on giving the ball to 23, let him bang it in there. And it's really confounding because, you think about, like, say, the Bill Walsh offense and those teams during those years. When those teams got down into the red zone, it was pretty much automatic. I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, they were going to convert for the touchdown. Kyle Shanahan is such an innovative offensive mind, and he's got a knack for always getting guys open in the middle of the field. And there's like a disconnect between that Shanahan brain and then the Shanahan brain. If it's even that we want to point the finger at, what happens? There is a disconnect somehow between that offense and then the offense we see when they get in the red zone. I don't know what it is. We're going to continue to scratch our heads until they correct it. And I don't know if it is. Maybe it's, let me ask you this. Are you guys fond of Deebo Samuel running the football as a running back? Let me just kind of take in like update situation. Where are you guys with that? We saw it a little bit last night.
I a couple of weeks ago, I thought I had what was, a pretty good analogy.
Okay.
Deebo Samuel used to be the Derringer that you could whip out of your pocket and solve the problem with really fast. Nobody saw that coming. That gun fired and no one saw it. Well now said. He is a slow loading musket that everyone can kind of see coming, and he's fooling absolutely nobody. And
I think you're right, Damon, because when they first started trying that a couple seasons ago, you're right. It was like, whoa, there was an element of surprise there. Oh, Deebo's in the backfield. Or they would run like a sweep and he would come around and take the handoff and turn around the edge. But now it's entirely predictable. And I'd actually like to see them move away from that. Where are you, Krugs, with that? I mean, they might have to do it out of necessity.
It's just he hasn't been as effective. I mean, that's why I was saying I think he's maybe lost some of his quickness and agility and change of direction. I mean, to me, and one thing I liked about the runs that he had last night compared to runs that I've seen earlier this year is the angle. Last night, his angle towards the line of scrimmage was north-south. That's what I want to see. I want to see a north-south angle. When Debo runs and he's running parallel to the line of scrimmage, it sucks. He doesn't turn up field quickly like a running back with that 1 foot and gone. He gathers like a receiver. And so he doesn't have that quick cutting ability, and that thing gets strung out to the sideline more times than not, and he gets nothing. A yard here, a yard there. Debo used to be a big yardage deal. If you handed him the ball, he got huge yards. Coming into last night's game, he had 15 carries for 34 yards on the year as a rusher. That's horrible. But I liked what I saw in yesterday's game. I like the idea of Debo running the ball because I think that's a strength of his. I just want to see him get 2 or 3 steps of momentum.
Yeah,
He's kind of reminds me a little bit of T.O. in that these guys that have some heft, they're really hellish to tackle if they get 3 steps. But it's like if you can get them before they get to 3 steps, you can bring them down relatively easily. Get Debo 3 full strides, and then I love the idea of Debo. And it's all about the angle. If you can get him going north and south and get him 2 or 3 strides, I love it. But it's all about that. If it's east-west, no. If he's got 1 step and there's the defender, no. Yeah. But if he's got 3 steps and you're going north-south, oh, I love it. I would use it a lot. But one thing I got to ask you guys
between the tackles, though. I mean, you are playing with,
yeah.
You're playing with the rules of God. If you're running your wide receiver in between your tackles with regularity because you want him going more north-south. I mean, that is just a great way to get an important player hurt. So
here's a question I have for you guys. All this talk about all these other angles, red zone, third down defense, is it really just come back to Shanahan's got to run the ball a little bit more? And I know that sounds so simplistic, but last night, 32 plays, 44% pass, 56% run. And I bring this up, guys, because I looked up the 5 biggest games of Kyle's career. And outside of the Philly game, because Purdy got knocked out early, six plays in. And here's where the 5 biggest losses of Kyle's career.
Okay.
Super Bowl loss in Atlanta as the OC to the Patriots. Super Bowl 54 loss to the Chiefs. NFC title game loss to the Rams. Loss to the Ravens on Christmas last year. And then the loss to the Super Bowl 58 to the Chiefs. Okay, I took out the Philly game because Purdy only played 6 plays. In those 5 losses, Shanahan's teams ran 109 times and passed 169 times. That's 61% pass, 39% run. And it consistently burns him. Against the Cardinals, they're going up against a Cardinal defense that was 28th in the NFL against the run, that had allowed the Commanders the week prior to run for 216 yards. And despite the fact that the Niners led the entire game against Arizona, they only ran 43% of the time, and they threw it 57% of the time. And if you took out, some of the Brock runs and then you looked at dropbacks versus actual runs, it was like 41 passes and 22 runs. In this game, they're 56% run, 44% pass. Guys, I really believe that the secret to Kyle Shanahan's struggles, or people are like, Kyle Shanahan blows it. I think we've seen enough to know that the common denominator is he gets a little pass happy. Maybe Jim Harbaugh was a little too run centric, a little too much Bo Schembechler, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Shanahan his tendency is the other side. He's a little too pass happy. And to me, when he commits to the run, I think the Niners are relatively unbeatable, even without, they didn't have their 1 or 2 back. They're leaning on their 3 and their 4 and their 5 back, and they still ran for 225 and, 7-8 yards a carry. Run the ball. Run the ball.
Let me ask you guys a question.
100%. Go ahead, D. Bruce. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say, does Kyle fall too much in love with the pass? Because he really thinks it's the more effective way to play this down? Or is there an element of ego and arrogance and wanting to show everybody the offensive genius card that we continue to attach to his reputation? Where does the overpassing come from if it's not successful? Is it arrogance? Is it ego?
It's a great question, Damon. Here's why it's a great question. Because some of that was you're choosing Jimmy Garoppolo to pass. It's not just about Brock Purdy. Right now, Brock Purdy's a hell of a quarterback. But Jimmy Garoppolo, he passed a ton with Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that if you go back to every one of those games, the Niners, in some cases, in one case, the Falcons lost, and they lost these games. They were close. If they had just committed to the run a little bit more, I mean, I think you saw it last night. If you commit to the run and win the turnover battle, you're the 49ers. I think it's the right way to play. Complementary football is, I think, the Niners at one point, guys, had an awesome D, amazing D with backups that could start for other teams, a Menahue and all these guys. They don't have that level of D. They need to protect their defense by having a run-heavy scheme and dominating time of possession. They've been number one in time of possession, which is great. But I think they ought to lean into it and protect their defense that much more because their defense has got some youth. It's got some it's relatively thin, and they need to protect their D. They really do.
I think both of you guys just hit some really critical, really good points. And first of all, talk about protecting the defense. And a minute ago, we talked about just the obvious absence of Christian McCaffrey and how much that's kind of affected things, especially down in the red zone. I would say on the defensive side of the ball, it's an easy thing to point to, but I would say the absence of Dre Greenlaw, I mean, you feel that game in, game out. I mean, going sideline to sideline, that speed he has, and just the way he can affect the game, I think we really missed that. But I want to go back to something you were saying, D. Bruce, about Shanahan's tendency to throw when maybe the game situation doesn't really dictate that he needs to do that. That's why, for me, the first time I almost ripped all the hair out of my head was their first Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs when Garoppolo was still the quarterback. And everybody, this is something that's been stuck in my craw since that game to this day, where people just beat the shit out of Garoppolo for the overthrow late. My question is, why in God's name was he throwing deep at all? The Niners were running the ball down Kansas City's throat for 3 quarters. They had a 10-point lead with, I think it was just over 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I don't think there's any reason for Shanahan to throw the ball at all in that situation, but yet that's what we saw. That's what people remember. But what I remember, I also remember Richard Sherman getting beat deep for a touchdown, and people don't really talk about that either in that Chiefs game, the first Super Bowl. But the fact that he had Garoppolo throwing deep like that, to me, it just made no sense. And it does seem to be a tendency of Shanahan when they have a lead, he continues to throw. Krugs, I'm with you, man. Run the goddamn football. The clock is burning. You're wearing down the defense. They're already with their hands on their hips in the fourth quarter. Let's just run this ball and go home. The parade's on Market Street. Instead, he's got Jimmy Garoppolo slinging the ball around. Guess what? That was an L.
You know what the numbers don't reveal? They show, if you look at Mason's numbers, the one you're like, whoa, this guy's dominating. And he is dominating, right? Because he's had like some amazing runs. He had a 38-yard run last night. He averaged 8.1 a carry. But what's cooked in there that you only know if you watch every down is that the Niners have had a shit ton of tackles for losses against them. They're having negative running plays and negative yardage plays quite often. Like they'll have a nice run and then they'll hand it to him again. He gets stuck for a 2-yard loss. So that's one thing I've noticed is that, without McCaffrey and without Mitchell was the king of get back to the line of scrimmage, salvage the run. He was great at salvaging the run. Mason's more explosive and he'll bust a 30-yard run. He'll bust a 25-yard run. But guess what? The next 2 carries, he may get tackled for a -5 yards.
And
it's more TFLs.
Garendo. I mean, that's
and Garendo, exactly.
He will give you 7 yards that make you go, okay, and then he'll give 3 yards right back. And look, it's not even him giving it right back. It's the offensive line not opening the hole, him not reading it, whatever. Look, if we're totally honest here about Jordan Mason, I think misses some holes, and his vision needs to improve and his instincts need to improve, but he's just got so much power and so much momentum going forward. He can get through, the holes that he doesn't see or didn't read correctly, where Guerrero, if it's not set up all perfect for him, he's not making much happen. Dominic Pooney and Colton McKivitz did a great job blocking on the huge Guerrero run that sprung for 73. What was it? No, Guerrendo's run was 70,
76.
Right.
76 yards.
76.
And, that was what a big play. What a big play. Now, there is joking that he slid. No, he got ankle tackled. So there was a dive at the very end.
He may have
the back of his foot.
He told somebody that he pulled up so Juice could get the touchdown, but I don't know if he's got 4.33 speed. He got caught from behind, and then he immediately went into like a slide after he got caught from behind. So it was hard to tell. Was it voluntary? Did he get taken down? I don't know. It's hard to know.
How often do you get two guys scoring touchdowns and they can just immediately walk over to the luxury box that is field level and hand the football to their wives? That happened twice. Kittle gave the ball to his wife. Juszczyk gives the ball to his wife. Right.
Debo even jumped up there. I'll say this about Guerrero too. He doesn't have pick and slide, but guess what? He's so damn fast. Why are they not scheming him touches as a receiver? He was a high school receiver. I mean, get this guy in space 5 times a game. I mean, he's been spotted a little bit, and we saw a 93-yard kickoff return. We've seen a 76-yard bolt of lightning. This is what this guy is. This guy is a negative yardage runner, except when he busts the long one. He doesn't have the instincts, but he's huge and fast. Get this guy isolated against somebody in space at least 4 or 5 times a game. If you're not doing that, you're not putting your best foot forward. This is a game breaker. This is also what's so nice about Guerrero. The Niners don't have any speed. I mean, Cowing, I don't know about you guys. The other thing we haven't talked about, Cowing looks really, really dicey as a punt returner. He slipped down twice. He muffed one in Minnesota the other day. He looks very unsure of himself. So that makes me nervous. But you got to get some speed on the field somewhere, somehow. Guess who that speed is? It's Guerrero, and maybe next week Pearsall. I'd love to see what Pearsall does to this red zone offense, because in my mind, guys, Purdy to Pearsall could become the most unstoppable red zone play that the Niners have, or combo, because of his ability to free himself up in a short area, Brock's timing and anticipatory throwing. I think if once you give Pearsall and Purdy some rep time, some field time, I think Purdy to Pearsall in the red zone is going to solve a lot of their red zone issues.
I love what you're saying, Krugs. I love what you're saying. I very much look forward to seeing what Pearsall can do for these guys, how he can help the offense, and a little bit more on just passes to Guerrero in open space. I love that idea. And I really think this next game against Kansas City would be an ideal time to start uncorking some play calls like that, because Kansas City's never seen that. That's an element that they would not really be prepared for. You know what I mean? A swing pass to Guerrero involving Pearsall in the game plan a little bit, which kind of leads me. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think this would finally be the game where the Niners can beat Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes? I actually think they can win this game. I really do.
Too. I do too. I think Kansas City has gotten to a point. I hate to say this because it hurts as a Niner fan to say this, but I think it's gotten to the point where Kansas City isn't scared about the Niners, and they're not. One of these games, the Niners are going to bring their A game, and Kansas City's going to bring like their C+ game. So Kansas City always circles up the Niners and plays their A effort. I think because they've had so many wins and so much success, they're bound to kind of no-show one of these games, kind of the way the Cowboys no-showed the Gerback game and the Niners went to Dallas and beat them. I could see that kind of a game where Kansas City comes out, they're not particularly sharp in the red. By the way, Kansas City's got worse red zone numbers or Mahomes does than Purdy. So I do think if Kansas City plays their A game, I think they're better. But I think that the Niners are definitely due. I think that's going to be a good football game.
I feel like
it's a blowout.
Damon, just watching the Chiefs this year, this is clearly not the same offense we've seen in the past. I mean, they're making plays in the fourth quarter, and yes, they're 5-0. They're finding ways to win ball games, and that I expect that will continue. But at the same time, D. Bruce, that Kansas City offense is not as potent as we've seen in previous years.
It's not. I agree with you. There's a lot of elements to them that look beatable. Look, the Niners are going to have to do it before I believe that they do it. I am not saying that they cannot win this game, but the Chiefs will win the game because they just got so much kryptonite as far as the Niners are concerned. The kryptonite's name is Spagnuolo. He makes Kyle Shanahan look like a JV football coach every single time he sees him. You got Andy Reid coming off a bye. Good luck with that. Historically, you're going to lose that game. Patrick Mahomes has never lost to the San Francisco 49ers.
Spags said after the Super Bowl, he credited Snead and McDuffie for being spectacular. And when upon the rewatch, I would agree. I thought and now Snead's moved on to Tennessee, so maybe that helps. But those are real. Kansas City's got had two really special DBs, and those guys played ball. And they outplayed Debo and Ayuk in the Super Bowl. Man, they really.
When a single mistake gets you beat. A turnover, a special teams mistake, which is coming. I mean, I guarantee you there will be a special teams mistake against Kansas City, and then Kyle won't fire the special teams coach that week, and we'll be talking about this again. The 49ers will fuck up on special teams against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the only thing I'm comfortable betting on. Sure enough to happen, because it happens all the time. They're going to be to a third.
Can you bet on that?
A third.
Excuse me, can I put $50 on the Niners fucking up? Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait a second. They just fucked up. I covered.
Do I have to lie?
I covered.
I'm here to collect. Yeah.
What did you bet? I bet that they would fuck up. They fucked up.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
that'd be awesome. That'd be a great one to try to collect on. What kind of odds did you get?
The Kansas City Chiefs looked a lot better when Dre Greenlaw wasn't on the field. He will not be on the field for this game. I'm going to tell you right now, Steve Spagnuolo is sitting in a corner, or Andy Reid is sitting in the corner. He's looking at Devondre Campbell like he's a free donut sitting on a plate. Devondre Campbell is going to get so thoroughly eviscerated and picked on. And one of the things that I think the Chiefs do and Andy Reid does, and you can see it with just some of the targets and the passing numbers, when they find a mismatch, they make sweet, sweet love to it as long as they can. Where it feels like Kyle is always looking to spread the ball around, and even though he's got a mismatch,
you're saying he's afraid of commitment.
Yes, I mean, look, you know what gets you beat? You know what absolutely gets you beat against the Kansas City Chiefs? A 4-target, 2-catch game for Brandon Ayuk. And that's what he had last night. 4 targets and 2 catches for the one guy who might get open in this game. The coaching.
It's not enough. It's not enough. By the way, Noe Astorga has a very scientific comment here. Campbell is trash.
Right.
And then they took the time to get the garbage can emoji, which is, that extra little touch.
I like the visual. Yeah.
That's like having a salad fork. You know what I mean? It's that artistic. Extra little touch.
Yeah, it's artistic.
Extra little touch. It's like when Damon brought me to the Guardsman dinner and there was a salad fork. I mean, it was just those extra little touches do everything. All right, let's hit some star chats because people want to pay us money.
Please.
And this is the part of the show that I never try to miss. We've got my ball, Zach Ertz. I don't ever want to hear you talk about Garendo again. Okay.
By the way, my ball, Zach Ertz is, we criticize some of these avatars, and some of them should be hung in the Louvre. That one. Congratulations.
Fuji Simeon 13. Last night was raunchy. LOL. Mike Hawk, my face, etc. It was a raunchy stream last night. What can I say? That's what happens when you invite Nicolina or Nicotina.
Jesus.
I blame Nicotina.
Yeah.
The one difference between that one and other ones. No, I'm just joking. Nicotina was on last night with us. He was fun. That's the other kind of fun thing is that these streams you can kind of invite whoever you want. Nicotina's like, hey man, I'd love to come to the stream. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Why not? Let's bring Nicotina in, and he was thrilled to be able to be on there with Damon and the group. And a couple weeks ago, I brought my nephew on. It was a lot of fun. Ricky Williams says we might need a safety, fellas. Odom won't cut it. Hey, by the way, George Odom played his ass off.
He did.
George Odom. I love George Odom, dude. He is the real deal. Now, are there better players? Sure. Is he a special teamer? Yeah. Is he the greatest coverage guy, safety of all time? No. But this guy shows up and plays. He plays for keeps. He plays for the right reasons. He's physical as hell. He takes no shit. If you try to cheap shot him, he's going at you. He's rough, man. I love the way George Odom plays. He's out there for playing for keeps, man.
You can run around him though.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the greatest player, but man, he plays hard.
It's a less is more situation. It really is. You do not want him to be he's on the field for 65 snaps safety. You don't.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Ricky Williams says, I saw Burford at left guard. Could he have potential to start over Banks? What I'm seeing out of Banks is average, and I only see him regressing and getting more injury prone as time goes on. Banks is grades out higher than Burford, and Banks had a great game against Arizona. I think Banks is actually a really good player. I don't know if at the end of the year how much he's going to make, or if they can afford to keep him. But I think Banks is a little bit better than Burford, to be completely honest. Though I like both. We got this from NB. He says Campbell and Yadam are trash. Is that the scientific term? iPhone 7 says Lynch and Kyle don't have the balls to fire him. We're talking about Schneider. Joke. Heather Taylor in the house says special teams woes. Is it personnel, execution? Is it Schneider? All of the above? What can the 49ers do to resolve during the season? Any hope to correct enough to sustain a run? You guys rock, by the way. What do you guys think? I mean, answer Heather's question. What would you point? If I say the primary issue with special teams is what?
I'm going to say this, Damon. I would just say, because Damon brought this up like the first point of the show today, the special teams mishaps and whether or not the special teams coach should be on the hot seat. I would say this, man. If this continues, they're going to have to make a change. I know it's not what any team wants to do, is make a personnel change as far as a coach goes in the middle of a season. However, if they continue to have these special teams mishaps that are pivotal points in the ball game where they're going to turn into losses, and we talked about 2 in the Rams and the Vikings earlier today, I think you can directly trace those losses to special teams mishaps when the momentum turned. I'll tell you what, Damon, I'm with you, man. If this continues, they're going to have to make a change or stay with what you have and risk another fucking replay of the 2011 NFC Championship where you had 2 special teams mishaps on punts that winded up costing them the NFC Championship. So, I don't want to let it get to that point, but if it continues, I think it's entirely reasonable to really consider taking a hard look at that.
Let's talk about what's the best plan, because they showed up this summer with every possible freaking return option that there is. They had the rock solid guy like Trent Taylor who can't return anything, but he's not going to fumble. Then you got Cowing who runs 4.3, but he can't keep his feet. Then you got Garendo who's got 4.3 speed, but he's going to run up the butt of Sauerbert and fumble. So you've got all kinds of, you got power backs, you got Debo, you got Juszczyk, you got a myriad of options. This would be my plan, and tell me what you guys think. If you're gonna have Trent Taylor in the building, and you're not really, and your stated goal, as Shanahan has stated, is to just not lose on special teams, then put Trent Taylor back there. Don't put Cowing back there, because Cowing is going to fumble or he's going to fall or whatever. And we're dreaming the big dream of the big return. Screw that. Go with the safe approach and just take the ball and let your offense drive the ball. Have enough confidence in Purdy and Shanahan and your weapons and where your money is on offense, and take the take less risks on special teams. No more Garendo on special teams. No more cowing on special. No more young guys figuring it out. No more. Go with Taylor. Let him catch it. If he fair catches it, fine. You just don't lose the game on special teams.
Right.
A muff punt they muffed the punt in the Minnesota game. They lost. Yep. They fumbled in the Arizona game. They lost. Or was it the New England game? Actually, it was the New England game that he fumbled. But you know what I'm saying? If you turn the ball over on special teams, you're typically going to lose. So I would go with Trent Taylor. If you're going to have him in the building, go with him. You're not getting big return yardage anyway. Go with the safe guy. And then the other things, I mean, I got no problem with Wisniewski. I got no problem with Moody. Obviously, Wright, hopefully he gets healthy. They got to be better on coverage teams. I mean, come on. I mean, these returns are ridiculous. Larry.
Like
that's coaching, but it's also the players. I mean, the players got to make those tackles.
But it's all the guys in the wrong running lane every single week, blown back, and it's sloppy. Again, even on the play where the Niners got screwed by replay, and you could say that Conley was definitely pushed into. It's just you shouldn't be in position to be pushed into the returner. That is a lack of discipline. There's been enough special teams failure, regardless of who's out there making the mistake. There is enough special teams failure at every level of special teams: kick return, kick coverage, punt.
Do you guys agree with my Trent Taylor? What do you think? Do you like the idea of the no risk?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Give me the guy who's going to make the least amount of mistakes, if that's the only bullseye we're shooting at. Like, you don't see special teams as a weapon at all, which is a ridiculous way to look at a third of your football team. It really is. Why are the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers always good even when they're bad? It's because they work harder on special teams than you do. You can say the same thing about all of those New England Patriots teams. They work harder on special teams than you do.
And Kansas City special teams coach is the best, Dave Taub.
Are you telling me that they're not going to run some sort of a fake or something on the 49ers? If every coach's job is to look for and attack weaknesses, I see nothing but weakness in 49ers special teams. Watch for Andy Reid to absolutely make sweet, sweet love to that donut as well.
Mark T. Enberg says, Lair, could you please do an impression of Balky explaining why he selected Kentuan Balmer and Shiloh Rashal with Deshaun Jackson on the board? You know, it's so funny, Mark, that you would ask this question on this live stream with I'm Lowry, and of course you know D, and of course Paulie Mack is a morning show legend. You know, he's a legend. I was just talking to Coach the other day. I said, give me some legends. He said Trevor Lawrence. I said, fuck that. Trevor Lawrence ain't a legend. Paulie Mack's a legend. And then we got into it. Anyway, I digress. Let me just tell you, Kentuan Balmer's he's a football player. And what I love about Shiloh Rashal is that he was big and tough. And, they always told me I was small and weak. So I said, I'm small and I'm weak, but I'll draft Shiloh Rashal and he'll protect me. And I don't like Deshaun Jackson. He's not a football guy. You know what I'm saying? That's why I come on this show with Damon and Paulie and Larry, because they're football guys. Deshaun Jackson's not a football guy.
Dude. Let me just quickly say, you couldn't fit this much KNBR in Miata unless you put on the radio back in 2007. You'd have gotten this level of KNBR memories just washing over you. This is like 55 Hawthorne, which was very close to an Amici's, by the way, which is my favorite show from the East Coast. I endorse it. Tate and I really like, some of the vegetarian options. The minestrone absolutely works for us. So it's really good to see the whole band back together, boys. It brings a tear to my eye, like the Miata wind when the top is down. I told Peter from Amici's, you ought to move into Hawthorne Place. It's right there. It's right by the station. I could have came right out and had some hot wings. It were really those lemon pepper wings and the garlic fries. And I miss Tom, and I miss everybody. I miss Paulie. Paulie's a good guy. I love the songs. I miss his show. And more than anything, I like Kentuan Balmer. Okay, I'm on record as saying I like Kentuan Balmer, but he doesn't fit in the Miata. I gotta have somebody who fits in the Miata, so I'm gonna go with Deshaun Jackson. I can't go with a Balmer. I can't go with a Rashal.
Shout out, man! By the way, D. Bruce, that true stamp of authenticity with a Barbieri impersonation is working in Amici's, which you pulled off, bro. So bravo on that one. Hey, and boys, before we all disperse and scatter into the weekend, I wanted to ask you guys real quick too. It's kind of sort of off topic, but not really. Kind of an extension of the 49er family. Were you guys? I was shocked. I mean, about the dismissal of Bob Saleh back with New York. Did you got just give me a quick take on that, because I was like, what the hell is what? Just give me your thoughts on that, just real quick.
Well, I think Rodgers threw him under the bus. I think if Rodgers has all the say there, he's the big dog there, and obviously they didn't have a good enough relationship. It's New York, man. So you lose and you get fired. It's just the way it goes, and they're very impatient. The Jets are a tire fire. The Jets were, there's a reason that the Jets haven't been to a Super Bowl since before I was born. I mean, I'm 54 years old. I've got 3 kids in college, and the last time they won the Super Bowl was like January of '69.
No,
so
you're right.
You know what? It's been a while. So I would just say that, the one thing about it, and this is where I don't think Shanahan and Lynch get enough credit. It's hard to change your culture. If your culture's bad, and the Niners had great culture, then it was bad. When Shanahan took over, it was bad. So they had to change the culture, rebuild the roster, and there's so much negativity. And this is with the Niners that have 5 Super Bowls in the trophy case. The Jets are a tire fire. There's so much negativity that it's hard to overcome, and it just takes a lot. And then they put all their eggs in the Rodgers basket. He blows the Achilles, and now he's not the player that he was. He hasn't thrown for 300 yards in 2.5 years. He's just not the same guy, and so that was Saleh's one shot, was that Rodgers was going to carry them, and they just invested in an old quarterback.
Saleh got Rodgers for 5.1 games. That's it. 5.1 games. He was out of that first game so quickly. To hold Robert Saleh accountable for what is wrong with the Jets, and then have the interim coach demote the offensive coordinator, and that is your problem. That doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you let Saleh make that call? What we have is yet another example of bad, interfering, meddlesome ownership. Woody Johnson, he made this call on his own, didn't consult the football office, maybe talk to Aaron Rodgers about it before it happened.
That's Ambassador Johnson to you, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Bassey's nuts.
Stop it. Just stop.
I'm going to tell you right now, bad ownership and football teams that can never get out of their own way, they rot from the head down. And there are 3 teams that I think apply to this more than anything. And Jim Harbaugh was brought in to make up for the dalliances of Spanos, who's an awful owner, and it's why the Chargers have never really mattered. Woody Johnson is directly related to the last quarter century of the Jets being an also-ran. And if we're being completely honest, Mark Davis, he might have got his stadium, but Mark Davis is attached to every single buffoonery moment that the Raiders have had since Al's passing. And when you've got a bad owner, you're going to have a bad football team in perpetuity, basically. That's the way it goes.
I think
go
I
ahead,
would just say one last thing on that, too, is I just feel like you said, Larry, I mean, I do think Aaron Rodgers had his hands in this thing, even though he vehemently denies it. And I just think,
right.
Look at Aaron Rodgers' body of work. It just seems like he's always at odds with his head coach. So it was almost like you could see this coming. But I feel bad for Robert Saleh. I think he's especially a good defensive coach. Obviously, we saw the results. He had the personnel.
He might be back. He could be back. I don't think he'll be back this year, but he could be back next year. I could see it.
What do we talk? What do we talk? Do we get Bob Saleh on the phone for a special teams coach interview? I'm just talking.
You know what? I think he's going to sit on a beach somewhere. I think he's smart.
I know. Yeah.
He's going to go to some thatched hut in Bali, and he's going to be climbing the walls of that thatched hut in about 3 weeks. And Mrs. Sala is going to be like, Bob, get the fuck back to work. You're driving us nuts. Football coaches are unhappy when they're not coaching football in football season. You can go ahead and you can check out and you can run around with your kids on the beach if you're a football coach. That's fun for about 25 minutes. And then you're like,
I don't know. He's got more kids in his family than he's got players on his team. Greg Arjazy says Costas blows dog. He and Darling hate my Yankees. Fuji Simeon says Lee Corso on ESPN is showing his age too. Oh, he's had a stroke. Let's give him a break.
Yeah.
Big Dad's.
This is one of those, sometimes you have to take the car keys because grandpa can't drive anymore. It's almost embarrassing what they're doing to Lee Corso. Yeah. It's like they're using him as a human mannequin to just put a head of a mascot on more than they're using him as an actual analyst or he's providing anything to that show. It's almost like elder abuse. It really is.
It would be elder abuse except for the big fat check that he probably gets. Big Dad 5'2" says, Larry, check the tape. It looks like Trent Williams is tipping plays with his left leg placement. If it's back, it's a pass. If it's up, then it's a run.
For 6 years.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Trent tips every play the 49ers are run, and he's so good at it, it doesn't matter. Like
Mark T. Enberg says, Paulie, I don't want to mess with your process, but what if your Malik Mustafa song was tear the roof off Mustafa, tear the roof off Malik Mustafa, tear the roof off Mustafa? Just a thought. Do you know what song is he referring there?
I think he's talking about Parliament Funkadelic. Am I right on that, Mark?
Roof off the mother sucker. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you. And hey, listen, Mark, everything's in play, man. There's all kind of possibilities. And when I
think of Lion King. I'm thinking Lion King. The guy's name's Mustafa.
Well, I will tell you this, you guys. When I launched my show in January, right alongside both of you boys on YouTube, we're going to get right back to it. I'll be spitting out new songs and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, in the meantime, hit me up at Paulie's Pod. That's a good way to reach me. If you need a piece, I'm always around.
There you go. Invader 49 says, Pearsall cannot wait till he's integrated into the offense. Going to be huge. Yeah. Fuji Simeon drops this one. Does Purdy go up or down on Wright's quarterback rankings? He better go up. This
way. I'll ask him on Wednesday.
Nice. Nick's going to be on with Damon. Check that out. Fuji Simeon 13. Brock has a chance to prove himself that he has not regressed as a quarterback to Molly, Q, Colin, and Nick when the Chiefs come to town next Sunday. Oh, great. Lucas Shea Houston Jr. The screen to Juice got blown up, but when have you ever seen a screen to a fullback? Larry, did you see anything innovative on that play, or was Juice in that spot due to the lack of trustworthy personnel there? I don't know if it was innovative, but I think it was just they trust Juice to handle the ball in pressure situations, even though he doesn't touch it a lot. He is a trusted agent by Shanahan. Wonder Boy says,
not to cut you off, but it's like,
no, I'm just trying to get through these things.
When Kyle Juszczyk is in there, it feels like there's going to be something coming for him. Like he's not just used as a fullback enough to get lost in the sauce of a play. It's like you go red alert when you see Juszczyk in there because this could be Kyle trying to incorporate him somehow, some way. Yeah. And I just think Kyle is sort of tipping what he does with Juszczyk and Debo in the backfield, and everybo's all over it. I mean, the entire NFL is all over these trends.
Coming down the stretch, I'm streaming in 10 minutes with Chase Senior so we'll get through this quick here. Wonder Boy says, speaking of alternative broadcasts, what about a Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger 49er live stream, live stream? I know lots of people have been in that space. It's funny. Chase Senior thanked me. He's like, thanks for not jumping in that space, because he's killing it and getting all kinds of views. I just love watching the game, and I want to have something to say about it. And so it's like, I know what you're saying. I wouldn't mind doing an in-game thing, but just not on the Niners. So I wouldn't mind doing an in-game thing on the Giants baseball, or in-game thing on Warrior basketball, or in-game thing on just something that I'm not so wrapped up in.
Yeah.
I'm going in-game live stream, I think, for Chiefs and Cowboys just to try it.
Try it. You'll get fat numbers. I guarantee you'll get fat numbers. Seriously. It's a area that the people that are killing it are not particularly great, I don't think. And I think there's room for other people. Artemis 4994 says Patrick Taylor Jr., nice job running and catching. Yeah, he showed himself nicely last night.
Point conversion though, he ran upright like a freaking ironing board.
And
he really did.
Smoked like a cheap cigar. Wonder Boy says all broadcast ideas we can all get behind. A DBLK plus friends live stream during Niner game, an alternate broadcaster we can all get behind. There we go.
People are asking for it, boys. The people are asking for it.
They want it. Kevin Woods says Mason's been good, but it feels like they need another running back. It does. It feels like running back 1.5, good enough to start, but maybe not enough to will them to victory. I would like to see them go for another back, maybe Keyshawn Vaughn off their practice squad. I talked to him the other day. He's ready to help. Fuji Simeon says Kittle's playing better than Kelsey this year. Kelsey's getting old, guys. I mean, he's 34, I believe. Beans Brown, weak O-line equals red zone issue plus pass happy Kyle.
I don't think it's describing this as an O-line as a weak O-line is even fair to them anymore. They're at worst, they're a league average O-line. At worst.
Fuji Simeon says, Paulie Mack, what's coming up in the future, Paulie Mack?
I'll tell you real quick, thanks to guys like Larry Krueger and Damon Bruce. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. Thanks to these two guys kind of showing me the way and opening the door, I've discovered there's a whole beautiful YouTube universe out there. So to answer your question, I will be launching a new show in January. You'll be able to find it right here on YouTube, right alongside these guys. And we'll all be kind of intermingling and stuff too. So we'll continue all this. But yeah, I'll be back formally and officially in January. So we'll see you there.
You go. That's when we'll promote the hell out of it for you when you do.
In January.
Fuji Simeon says, congrats, Rick Celebrini, or was it
Macklin.
What's his name? Macklin Celebrini's first NHL goal. And the Dodgers suck. Oh, we can always throw that in there.
By the way, what a huge game for the city of San Diego tonight. What a huge, it's the most important Padres game since what? Bruce Bochy and freaking
who's starting? Do we know who's starting tonight in the
World Series? I think, is Darvish going tonight? Is it Darvish?
I think it's Darvish against Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Ooh, what time?
5 o'clock, I think. First pitch, something like that.
Ooh, I'm going to watch that.
That's a big one.
David E says, any chance Campbell is replaced after last night's performance? God, that when he got ISO'd on DK Metcalf, I sat there and just was like, what in the hell is going on? I think Seattle could have done that all night, and they just didn't. I'd blame Seattle for not going to that more often, but Campbell's got to go.
Wait until you see what Andy Reid is going to do to Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell's going to get played off the field halfway through the first quarter. Andy Reid is going to destroy him.
Oh, God, I can see it. Beans Brown says O-line issues equal red zone crap plus pass happy Kyle. We got Mark Tienberg. Damon, if you've got a Barbieri, you've also got a Joe Pesci and a Brando in you. There's part of the same impression tree.
There's route trees, there's impression trees.
Nice.
On that note, gentlemen, great stuff. That is going to do it for us.
Thanks.
Final thoughts as we go around the room here.
Well, I'll give you mine first. Damon, you scared the crap out of me throughout the entire show talking about Andy Reid coming off the bye and what Spags is going to do to us. And you know what, man? You're probably right. However, I do feel like at some point, if there is such a thing as football gods, I feel like it's just time. It's time for the Niners to beat Kansas City. If they can just simply make some plays, maybe a couple of turnovers, maybe, if we can turn a couple of Aaron Patrick Mahomes passes into turnovers, I think the Niners have a shot to win the game. So my final thought is this is the time. It's going to happen. Niners are going to beat Kansas City, even though all the points Damon Bruce pointed out are damn good points. But I'm saying
I might have made good points, but let me go back to the most important point that only you could bring to the table, Paulie. Particles.
Yeah, right. Hey.
Particles in the air, and maybe the 49ers' best chance to win this game is if the particles align, baby. So it was so good seeing you. I see Larry 3 times a week, even more. I don't see you nearly enough, brother. Great to see you. Great to hear you. You're one of my favorites. And subscribe to that YouTube channel right now, baby. Cannot wait to see you in January go live for real.
Thanks so much.
One last mention for Sam's Chowder House as well, guys. Check them out. Half Moon Bay, great restaurant. You will not be disappointed. Incredible location. We endorse it highly. Check out Sam's Chowder House. Thanks to Sam's for sponsoring Wake Up with Damon and Larry, and thanks to all of you guys for being here. Join me. I'm headed over to stream with Chase Senior right now on the Krug Show, and then later today I'll be on with Tolbert and Copeland this afternoon, and then at 6:00 tonight on KMBR, catch me for a little Niners Nightly, and we'll take phone calls tonight. We'll hand out game balls and break the whole thing down and discuss Kyle's presser, which is coming up in about 2 hours from now. And we'll get some updates on these injuries and kind of look ahead to Kansas City. So great win, great stream. Gentlemen, final thought.
I sure like doing radio with you guys.
Yeah, that'll work for me too. You guys have good weekends. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Damon. Great seeing you boys.
Peace.